Always do it again.
Yeah, all right, everybody. This is in Liberty and Health. After a few technical issues, we communicated with Don from Beyond the Grave to get his good blessing to do this podcast and have a stable internet connection. I got the great Tommy Salmons with me today. I've been looking forward to this chat. I feel like I've known this dude for 10 years already. Dude, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just whatever. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, yeah. I did just see a message. We'll start off pretty heavy. The national debt just crossed $30 trillion. Um, dude, what the fuck are we doing?
I fuck it, man. I was listening to Glenn Beck the other day, and there was a Freedom of Information Act released. I think it was the Levy Institute had been fighting the Fed for like 10 years, trying to get this FOIA from TARP. And they had printed out 29 trillion. When they told everybody it was 5 trillion back in 2008, it was actually 29 trillion. They sent trillions of dollars overseas to a bunch of foreign banks. And then this whole nonsense with COVID started, and they started pumping $1 trillion a week into the economy. Well, that's been like 95 weeks or some shit like that. It's like
Mhm.
it's like 95 trillion dollars. I have no there. It's either complete idiocy when it comes to economics, or they're intentionally collapsing the society. And I've gotten way beyond the point of thinking these people are incompetent.
Yeah, dude, it's tough to say because you look at everything that's going on right now and the vaccine mandates, the effectiveness of the vaccines declining significantly over time, and nobody is having it. How can they keep up the facade? It's like everybody's kind of saying the emperor has no clothes, but we're still chugging along, $30 trillion in debt. We're fighting, active hot wars in 6 countries, I believe. We ended one, thank God, but like, dude, it's rough. It's freaking rough. I don't know what to make of it anymore.
And
And
then they Yeah, and then they want to start another war with Russia or some shit.
yeah,
You're like, these people have no. They're it's. It, I mean, I don't have any other way of saying it other than this is a complete shift in the way that we've experienced governance in our lifetime, and they are definitely leaning on that old Rahm Emanuel quote, "Never let a serious crisis go to waste." And then they've been, I mean, they've been throttling us. It's like, man, I don't even know what to do. Um, I talk a lot. Like one of the things that Ryan and I are talking about doing is really getting this Discord up and running, and starting to have people on doing live streams and teaching skills, because you're going to have to start doing things on your own that you never thought you were going to have to do. And you're going to need to find a place where you can get those skills and you can learn that knowledge. And I mean, I have a platform, so it's like, well, I know some people, so let's see what we can put together, at least help some people out. Uh, I'm not a rich guy, so I can pretty much guarantee you're not going to be rich either if you listen to me, but you know, you might be better off.
yeah. Well, one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on is because, much like myself, despite the fact that I may appear to be this, athletic libertarian guy and musician, um, I'm a blue collar guy. I mean, my family has owned automotive shops in southwestern Pennsylvania for the last 3 generations. I've rebuilt $100,000 Escalades top to bottom. I mean, I've done that for the last 10 years, and my family's been doing it for many, 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 many decades before me. I feel like we have a vantage point and an advantage when it comes to a lot of the stuff that's kind of coming down the pipes because we're used to working with our hands, right? We're used to getting dirty. We're used to, kind of being out there in the field and having to figure problems out for ourselves. We're not necessarily there to be led. We are here to kind of be leaders in a way. And I feel like that's the way trucking is for a lot of people. And as a mechanic, a flat rate guy, right? We get paid by the jobs that we turn and the jobs that we do. You have to be a leader in order to make money. And
Mm.
like I said, I feel like a lot of blue collar guys kind of have the same outlook. Good.
Oh, internet's jumping around on me again, but I think I caught what you were saying there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's you know, I don't know anything else other than, working. Uh, My whole life, 17 years old, I was a grinder and a sandblaster and for rebuilding cranes. That's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And all I know to do is go out there and, stick my dick in the dirt and see what happens. And, you know, so I started raising chickens. I was like, all right, well, I at least know like I'm gonna have food because I have a stocked pond and I have chickens. Like worst come to worst, be eating fish and eggs, for the rest of our life. But we, I don't foresee a way where I can jump on. I don't see that these technologies that these people are so dependent on nowadays are gonna last. When people bring Bitcoin up to me, yeah, I've invested a little bit of money into Bitcoin, but I don't have any trust in it because it doesn't take anything for a situation like this where the internet is just all haywire and you, you know they they could shut this down at any minute. Like just completely shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I think they want to, but they could. If they felt like there was a threat to them, you think for a second they wouldn't shut down the entire internet? Look what they've done to the economy. Look what they've done to the supply chain just to
Mm-hmm.
keep power. Just over the last couple of years, look what they've used COVID to justify. And if you think that they're going to let a little discomfort get in the way of their rule, then you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah, and I totally think that's a reasonable way to approach it. Kind of made me think of January 6th when you said if they thought you were a threat. It's funny that they're kind of dragging out January 6th as like the gift that keeps on giving for government, if you follow what I'm saying. Um, January
Every day
6th,
is January 6th.
right? But January 6th is to blame for everything. But it's like, look, if they legitimately thought these people were a threat, they'll commit a genocide in Yemen. Do you really think they wouldn't reduce these people to fucking ashes if they legitimately thought they threatened them in any kind of way? And if you really think that like they
Yeah.
thought at like I don't know what to tell you if you thought people were actually scared. No, they don't care. Those people would have bullets in their skulls before we could even blink if they legitimately thought those people were going to harm them in any kind of way.
No, it's a narrative. I mean, it just gives them leverage because the the average person has not spent their entire life studying and watching and paying attention to news. Like one of the things that you realize when you start talking to people is that they very rarely make it past the headlines.
Yep.
And, and that's why the headlines are always lies. That's why the headlines never tell you what the real story is. And you read a headline and then you get three-quarters of the way through the article and the article completely dismembers the headline.
Yep.
It's like just complete it's like two different worlds in one article. And so and I don't blame people for this. Like it's not. I don't think it's their fault. They were conditioned to be this way. You're talking about $1 trillion a year propaganda campaign that we got on our backs constantly. 15,000 hours of government education, and then the people like you and I are outliers. The
Mm-hmm.
outliers aren't the ones that are going along with the narrative. And so this is all a narrative. And as long as they can keep some semblance of legitimacy on their side, then they have that narrative. And that's why you have the whole Russia thing going on right now, where they're talking about possibly going to war with Russia over Ukraine, is because they're trying to keep people in a constant state of fear so people keep listening to them. And as long as people are listening to them, then their thoughts and their activities are based off of what they are being told. But what you're finding is more and more people are fleeing,
Mhm.
right? One of the things that struck me here in the last couple of weeks, how many conservatives are are like defending Bill Maher, and because a couple of things he said that we've been saying for a couple of years now, and they're like, oh wow, Bill Maher is one of the good ones, you know. And these people are so desperate to have somebody just give them some sense of hope, some sense that they're not crazy. And that's how I shape my show. That's why I keep that blue collar line about it. Number one, I'm too stupid to lie, and so I'm just going to keep being myself. But number two, like these are the people that we can attract to the liberty movement and to the liberty space, are these conservatives that feel like nobody's speaking for them. They've been bitching about rhinos since I was 20 years old, man. And nobody has stepped, no liberty minded person has stepped into that space and said, hey, I'm not a rhino. I'm not even a Republican, but here's where we agree and here's where we can work together to move forward the path to liberty. Because they give lip service to liberty. And like, you can think what you want to think about like conservatives, but they're at least their mindset, their speech, the way that they address subjects is at least in the right genre, right? Like so we can at least have that conversation. You know, you and I were talking a lot about music earlier, and it would be like if I ran into somebody who listened to um, a band I really don't like let's say Machine Head. Like I don't really care for Machine Head. I like some of their old stuff, like Locust was a great song. They had a couple of really good songs. But for the most part, I don't like Machine Head. I don't like the way that Rob Flynn like approaches everything, that he involves politics into everything, tries to shun a bunch of his followers, his listeners. I don't like that. But if I ran into a guy who listened to Machine Head, I would at least have some common ground to speak about Lamb of God or Cataclysm or
Mhm.
some of these other bands, right? And that's what I see when I look at conservatives. It's like at least we have somewhere to to kind of like to talk from. We see the same reality in front of us. Whereas at this point in time, I have no similar reality to the left for the most part, right? I just sat there and watched my wife for 2 days argue with people over this Canadian protest that my one of my best friends was at, you know, and he just had his article published in Newsweek. Shout out to
Wow.
Gord, which is just fantastic for him. And I'm like, okay, you have these lefties taking the side of the global elite and demonizing truckers. And like as they're arguing, I just looked at my wife and I said, "You know what you should do? Just in quotations, respond to them with workers of the world unite." It's the proletariat is
Yeah.
standing up against the bourgeoisie and you're bitching. You know,
Yeah.
like what's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's shit, but it's completely it's like Scott Adams pointed this out when Trump was running, that you have you have one television screen and you have people that are seeing two different movies play on that TV screen. And it's just insanity.
Yeah, we'll see. And it's funny. This is kind of like what I see in Jordan Peterson and Donald Trump is that all they had to do was essentially tell people, I don't hate you, right? Because what did they hear from the mainstream news for the whole 8 years of Obama? We hate you. You're racist. You're misogynist. You're sexist. You're a terrible person for being the white blue collar guy who makes 50 grand a year trying to feed his kids and his dog and put up his, white picket fence around his house. You're an asshole for that. And then all it took was once again Donald Trump or Jordan Peterson coming along and saying, hey, you know what? Life is tough. we don't hate you. We're on your side. And guess what? People fell head over fucking heels for those guys because people are dying for the message that, hey, I can relate to you. I understand your plight. I understand you're getting fucked by all these people. And then what does the left do? They say, no, no, you're a horrible person. Let's go with the warmonger, Hillary fucking Clinton and Justin Trudeau, who want to stick a needle in absolutely everybody's fucking arm. Like, could you be more out of touch with the majority of fucking Americans? Like, what's wrong with you? You're running the
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, 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 you're good. You're good. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No, then you have this, you know, you see Justin Trudeau come out and he's talking all this shit and he's like, yeah, I'll march with Black Lives Matter, but I'm not marching with these fascists. You know, like, you're like, what the hell, dude? You know, you had a couple of truck drivers that were about to lose their job because they refused to get vaccinated. They were going to lose their job. So they decided, okay, we're going to drive to Ottawa. And this turned into like 500,000 people. Like, I don't know. And they're not all truck drivers. They're not all truck drivers. So it's like there are people that feel the same. I wrote this in the article that I just released a couple of weeks ago at the Libertarian Institute. You're not alone. Like all this gaslighting and shit like that, this is all a bunch of bullshit, right? And we all know it's a bunch of bullshit, but so many people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid to look crazy in front of people they know and that they respect and they love and they care for. But if people start, I had a guy come up to me and this was in the article. He's 25 years old, young guy. I really like the guy. Have a lot of respect for the kid. He works hard. He's a hard worker, you know, and he walked up to me. He goes, man, I don't know what the hell's going on with me for the last 2 years since COVID came about. I'm just so tired, man. I'm just so tired. I was like, man, they're doing it to us all. It's not just you. This kid should be like at the peak of his game, 25 years old, and he's just like he has trouble getting out of bed, you know, because he's just so exhausted by the constant shifting of the narrative, and it's just being bombarded, and he feels crazy. And we sat there. He went with me on a run a while back, and we talked for like 4 hours. And he's like, so I'm not nuts. And I'm like, no, dude, you're not fucking nuts. You're normal. You're the normal one. Like all this shit that's being thrown at you is what's fucking crazy. I'm sorry if I'm cussing too much, man. You know I cuss. So, but yeah, you're the one who's you're being bombarded with all this propaganda, all these you know narratives that change weekly, and it's exhausting to these people because they don't know what they're dealing with. They've never seen it before. They've never read about it. They don't know. They didn't read the Gulag Archipelago. That's just not who these people are. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means they're not aware of the way that these propaganda techniques are used to break down the senses of people in order to get you to just follow along. And it's driving this, it's this dividing line, and it's dividing people that see each other every day, all of them thinking the same thing, every single fucking one of them afraid to say anything because they're afraid they're going to look crazy in front of their peers because the mainstream narrative has been shoveled down their throat for so long. They think that they're nuts and that they're seeing something that isn't there. That's the gaslighting, and they're doing it to us all. And some of us have the responsibility, because we understand what's going on, to speak up and say, no, dude, you're not nuts. You're not alone. You're not crazy. Like this is intentional, and they're doing this to you, not for you.
Right. Yeah. And I completely get it. And it kind of frustrates me to see people who are so bitten on the narrative that they can't pull away. Like I got BoomerCon coworkers, right? These dudes are 40 to 50 years old that, oh, you know, I got
Right.
vaccinated. COVID's going to kill us all. I mean, they're just as terrified as some people on the left. But, you know, I want to like just slap them around. But then I remember like, oh, wait, They literally watch the news every single morning. They don't sit here and consume content like you and I to inform ourselves about all this bullshit going on.
Right.
And they're just not in the same headspace. So it's our job to inform them, to try and pull them over to our side, say, hey, look, that little sliver of doubt that you got in your mind, that's not like the crazy voice. That's the sane voice. That's the voice that's trying to pull you back and realize, like, holy shit, all this stuff is not normal. What we had in 2019 wasn't necessarily normal, but it was way better than what the fuck we got going on now, where we're being told that we're all going to die and we're terrible people just because we don't want to take a drug from big pharma, and that now all of a sudden big pharma is your best friend and you can trust everything that the science says. So we really have to appeal to these people and come in an empathetic way where, like, hey, we understand, but listen, you're not crazy. We're on your side. We're on the same side, right? The government's feeding you this bullshit and you don't have to buy it. You could say, I don't want this anymore, and we can figure out solutions from there.
Mm. Yeah, and libertarians are bad about this, and really it's something that all of us, I think, need to work on. Um, I I was I work with people I genuinely like, and I've known, like, one of the guys that I work with. He's I've known for like 12, 13 years
Mhm.
because he worked with my dad too, and so I've known him for quite a while, and it was a situation with him that actually moved me from being mad to just feeling bad. Like, I went from being angry constantly about everything that I'm witnessing to just feeling bad for the people that are being subjected to it and don't know that they can speak up. And in he was sitting there, it was in December. The company we work for just reinstated mask mandates for when you're inside the store, and he called me aside. It was just me and him there at the time, and he goes, "Oh, Tommy, I forgot to tell you, man. We got to start wearing masks again when we're inside the store." And I was like, "All right," because I try not to, like, react whenever these things are going on because I want to see what other people are saying. So I'm trying to listen and not react. And so I'm like, okay. And he goes, it's a bunch of bullshit. I know. I got the vaccine, so I didn't have to wear a mask anymore. And it was just like something in me. It just broke at that moment, and I just looked at him, and it was like, it wasn't like condemnation that I was looking at him with. It was like sympathy, and I was like, did you really think that was going to work? And it was that moment that I was like, oh, these people, like, they've been had. They've been bamboozled, man. There's no other way of saying it. They've been had. They've been lied to. They've been conned and manipulated into these actions in believing that it was what was going to get them back to a normal life, which is all they were trying to get in the first place. And they were under the impression that I just do this and it will be normal. And yeah, for some of us, we're like, dude, it's been 2 years. Like, really? You really believe that? But at the same time, you got to be like, they weren't taught that the government lies to you. That's not in their headspace. Like you said, they're not net deep in this shit, looking at WMDs and, MK Ultra and researching these things. I could probably bring MK Ultra up to this guy and he'd look at me like I was in, like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of this. Like, this is our language that we think everybody should know. It's like, no, libertarians got to get off this mountaintop where they think everybody knows or reads or thinks the same way they do. Like, our job is to speak to the normies in normie terms. And I find that I'm quiet a lot more than I usually would be because I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to talk to them. Like, I'm listening to what they're saying, I'm listening to their concerns so that therefore I can say, well, or I'll just make a smart ass comment, right? And just make them laugh, and then but it plants that seed, like, oh yeah, it is fucking ridiculous, right? And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them to see the absurdity, right? And how do you get them to see the absurdity? Well, it's not telling them they're stupid or they need to read more. Yeah, like here's a 1,500 Rothbard book. Have fun. Then you'll be a third of the way to where I am. Or something like what like that's not the way that we're going to beat this, right? And so you're being just as elitist as the elites when you do that. Really, you are. You're talking down to people, and we shouldn't be doing that because these are our people. These are like, at least for me, I'm a blue collar guy, so like most of the people I deal with are just like regular conservative, like shit kicking rednecks. That's who I'm around all the time. And so these people don't want to be talked down to. That's a good way to get punched in the mouth around here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I work for the last 10 years in the automotive industry, and it's all with people who are aged anywhere from 30 all the way up to 70 years old. And yeah, if you go up to those guys and tell them, look, you're stupid, here's a book, read this, like you said, you'll get punched in the fucking mouth. I mean, these people don't want to, like you said, they don't want to be talked down to. So why don't we come at them, as though Bishop would like to say, fellow travelers? Let's say, hey, you know what? I understand your complaints. Let's talk about this. Let's walk it through, and maybe I can, like you said, plant that seed. Maybe I can give you this little tidbit of knowledge that will make your solution sound that much better, right? Because you may have the solution, but you don't understand where it can go with the right information or getting to it the right way. And this is why I get frustrated with libertarians who want to come out and rail against cops. And it could just be because where I've grown up, right? All these guys are real hard back the blue kind of people. Where I take my dogs for a walk, I see Trump flags, back the blue flags every morning, right? If you go up to these people and say all police are bad people, fuck Trump, fuck all Republicans, which, I can agree generally with the sentiment, these people are going to want to talk to you. They're going to think you're a fucking retard. So, why don't we, make the barrier to entry lower? Let's meet these people where they're at and maybe try and convince them of why we're right and why our solutions, complement what they want.
Mm. Yeah, show them a video of a cop arresting a preacher for fucking holding a church service.
Right.
If you, or seriously, if you want to show them something that they'll relate to. Be like, dude, did you hear about this fucking news story? Check this out. This cop is arresting a preacher for holding a church service. Like, what kind of fucking regulations are these people passing down? What is the deal with this? Like, and then you can start talking about the laws and the immorality of the laws or whatever like that, and you can backdoor your way into it. But talk to them where they're at. You got to talk to them about what they care about. They don't care about your righteous indignation. They don't care, And quite frankly, I've gotten beyond the point of where I really care anymore, right? Because we're in a position where we're staring down the barrel of totalitarianism. I don't have 2 years to wait for your pet projects to read philosophy.
All right.
I have 5 kids and a granddaughter. I'm not worried. I'm not going to sit here and wait on your, whatever you're doing, like to read philosophy and catch up on libertarian philosophy. That's not where we're at right now. We were there 5 years ago. We're not there right now. And we got to change tact. We got to talk to people differently, and we got to move differently, and we got to react differently, right? Whereas, like Though Bishop working with the Republican Party, there's nothing wrong with that because of where he lives. All right, here in Texas, the Libertarian Party is a shit show. I don't want anything to do with those people. You could put any single one of those people in front of me, I wouldn't vote for them if my life depended on it. Right? So if the good candidates aren't there, where are they? Well, we got Don Huffines running for like primarying Greg Abbott for the governorship. Don Huffines is a Ron Paul libertarian Republican, right? He's like a Thomas Massey type. 10 times better than anybody from the Libertarian Party of Texas. So we should be looking at that guy, right? So it's like we gotta. It's not my job to be in a party affiliate. I'm not attached to any party. Part of my attraction to libertarianism was not being attached to any party, right? And so if I see a Tulsi Gabbard working in Hawaii where they're draconian as hell, I'm going to support Tulsi Gabbard in Hawaii. If I see, a Rand Paul in Kentucky, I'll support Rand Paul because they don't have to be at the exact same principled position as me for me to say better than all the rest. And at least it's a step in the right direction, because the progressive left did not get America to the point we're at by taking a large leap. It was a bunch of small steps. You read
Mhm.
Rothbard's The Progressive Era. This shit started back in the late 1800s. This shit didn't start yesterday. And so the fact that the ADL changed their definition of racism to be racist is, yeah, it's a problem, and point it out, right? Let's talk about, what they're saying. Just like we're talking about the narrative around COVID. Like, yeah, we got to talk about that. But we can also look at, like I always bring up, the essay, George Orwell's essay, called Politics in the English Language, where he's pointing out the politics and politicians, you know, uh, taking away the meaning of words in 1946. He was talking about the destruction of the English language and the corruption of words in 1946. He was pointing it out in this book, 1984. I mean, like, these aren't new things. So we got to find ways to relate to these people without looking down our nose at them and acting like they're just a bunch of idiots, because they're not backwards idiots. You can talk to any of these people you think are a backwards idiot about something don't know shit about, but they're fucking damn near PhD on, right? I don't know how many mechanics know the ins and out of libertarian philosophy, but without them, your cars wouldn't be running for very long.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I've heard you talk about this a lot, and I couldn't agree more. But, you've said, hey, I may not appeal to everybody, and that's okay. I don't want to appeal to everybody. I've told, you said you've told people don't listen to your podcast. And you know what? I'm kind of the same way. Look, I'm a socially conservative libertarian, right? I'm a mechanic. I'm a, heavy metal
Mm-hmm.
guy. I'm a exercise enthusiast. My brand of libertarianism, what I talk about, the things I talk about in my show may not be for everybody. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be. But guess what? I can talk to mechanics because guess what? We've both done the same job for plenty of times. We both got the calluses on our hands. I could talk to musicians because we both, have loaded in
Mm-hmm.
and out gear. I could talk to people who like to lift heavy stuff, right? Because I've done that for plenty of years as well. You can relate to blue collar people because you've been a blue collar guy your entire life. Um, I feel like a lot of the problems that we're seeing now is because we as libertarians have failed to play to the facts on the ground, right? We've wanted to look
Mm-hmm.
down our nose at people because they don't know the ins and out of all the philosophy. And oh, we're so principled and we're so much better than you. Well, we're going to have to drop that and we're going to have to start being more pragmatic and say, look, I don't care about the vehicle, or I don't care about, yeah, I don't care about the vehicle. I care about the message. I care about the outcome. If the best outcome is a Republican here in Pennsylvania preaching libertarianism, sign me up. I'm cool with it. If in New York, the best guy's a Democrat who is
Right.
libertarian through and through, I'm cool with that. I don't care about the Libertarian Party. I don't care about the Republican Party. I don't care about the Democrat Party. I don't care. You know what I care about? Liberty. That's what I care about. I want to see liberty. I want to see freedom in our lifetimes. I don't want to have to worry about vaccine mandates, right? But we do right now. So whoever's going to get that off my back, guess what? You got my support. But other than that, if you're just, saying, oh, well, I'm a libertarian, but I'm just every bit as bad as all the Democrats, then I don't care. I'm not going to vote for you. I'm not supporting you. If there's a Republican who's better than you on all the libertarian stuff, guess what? The Republicans got my vote every time. And I think that's where libertarians kind of need to start focusing their energy on, is just the message, not the vehicle. It has to be the facts on the ground and what we could do to increase liberty in people's lives.
Yeah, well, and there's been that kind of movement going on. You know, you have Andrew, Popular Liberty, you have Matt Erickson, Pete Quinones, um, Buck Johnson. A lot of these guys I know, I'm friends with, and I have like nothing bad to say about any of them. I consider Pete one of my best friends. You know, like we chat all the time. Like I'll text him, he'll text me. We'll bullshit about things. Like, and I don't agree with Pete on everything. I don't agree with Buck on everything. But you're never going to meet nicer people.
Right.
Like really, if somebody tells me they have a problem with Buck Johnson, there's something wrong with that person, right? Like it's like I've been at Buck's house. I've spent time with the guy. Like you're not going to convince me that Buck is a bad person. Like it's just not going to happen. It's you're wasting your time. And and Buck didn't attack anybody. I've never heard Buck attack one person ever. He's like one of the nicest guys I ever met. So soft spoken, such a sweetheart of a man. And he just, you know, like some of us care about people, right? And I think that's what's different for some of us is some of us care about people while others only care about the ideas. And it's like, no, the ideas are great. Like I have no issues with ideas, but some of us really care about people. And we're looking at, especially like future generations, like, cause I have kids, right? My kids are in their late teens, early 20s. They're all breaking out and starting their lives. And I'm like, this fucking shit is going to fuck their lives up. Like, this is going to make their lives so hard, so difficult. And I don't want them to have difficult lives, right? And and so whenever I'm talking about these things, I get all fired up. I get it like I'll start cussing, I get mad, and I'm like, yeah, blah blah blah. And it's because I'm thinking like this is affecting my kids. This is affecting my grandkids. It has nothing to do with I don't expect to see liberty in my life. Like, but I would like them to. You know, I'm fighting for their generation. I'm in my 40s. I'm probably not going to live another 20, 30 years, like whatever, especially since I smoke so much. But I'll let you preach to me about health later. Uh, so, but it's just, I'm just like, no, I don't have the patience to deal with people that are so caught up in, well, you didn't say this perfectly, or you're not being completely principled here. And it's like, whatever, man. Like, I have kids to worry about. Like, I'm not worried about your opinion. Yeah, and this goes back to you said, like you said, I've told people, don't listen to my show. It's not for you. Well, you didn't say this right, or you didn't say that right, or you sound like this, or you sound like that, or you're rough, or around the edges. Yeah, I don't care. I am who I am. I'm just me, man. I'm always like, you can ask anybody who's met me in person. I'm the exact same way I in person as I am on this podcast. Like, that's who I am. I don't know. Like I told you, I'm too stupid to lie. I don't know how to be anything else. Like, that's just who I am. It's who I've always been. It's the way I'm always going to be. I don't know what to tell you, you know? So yeah, I'm very self-aware about like the type of people my podcast is for. I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware of the people that listen to my podcast. Like, I'd say the majority of my audience have been guests on my podcast because we get that bond, and then it's just like we're buddies. Like, cuz that's my personality. Like, when I meet you, like, we're good. We're buds now. Like, we're cool. Like, that's just how I am. And I'll defend you. And I'll go to bat with people I like and respect, and I'll be like, no, you don't understand this guy. whatever. And that's why, like, that's what led up to like the Adam Patrick Reed Coverdale shows, because I know both these guys very well. I deal with these guys, like I talk to them all the time. Like, y'all aren't that much different. Like, there's not that much difference here. I don't understand why there's this argument going on.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's just kind of who I am. I make friends with everybody.
mhm. Yeah, Scott Horton said or gave you the name of Tommy, everybody's friend. um, but yeah,
Yeah.
Reed's. I've joked Reed has a residency on the show. He's been on 3 times in. I believe this will be the 50th episode in about 4 months, and it's just like just like you, blue collar dude, laid back, just another kind of everyman. He's not sitting here looking down his nose, preaching philosophy, telling you about how he read every single Rothbard book front to back, or how he knows every bit of every foreign policy and every law out there. He's just a regular dude looking to have good conversations who's a libertarian, right? And this is something that I've kind of banged the table a lot about too, is that if we want to be a powerful movement, then we need interesting people, right? We need a culture. We need people who bring something to the table, right? You and I are both into heavy metal. That is such like a tight knit kind of culture, because you go to a heavy metal
Mm.
concert, there's nothing like being there screaming beside complete total strangers, sweating your ass off and drinking a beer. There's nothing like it, right? That is a culture. Well, what do we libertarians have
Yeah.
as a culture?
Yeah. I'm working on some short stories and a book of short stories. I'm working on some novels and stuff like that. I know Michael Rechtenwald, he's written some fiction. But the libertarians in general aren't interested in fiction. And you have family members that would rather read a fiction novel, a dystopian novel, or a horror novel than they would um, read Rothbard or Mises. Like
Right.
this, they don't find that stuff interesting. Whereas, like, they'll find like these stories interesting, right? Um, Eric July, I think he's still. I mean, I think most people still follow him or find him because of his music and his talk about comic books. And now he's starting a comic book um, company of his own to battle DC and Marvel.
Right.
And so we should be promoting that to people, right? There was that whole series of children's books, the Tuttle Twins, that came out a few years back. You know, you have there there are kids in your family, like buy them a Tuttle Twins book. Like it's we have to get better at supporting each other and ignoring what we don't like about each other. Like, you brought that up about what Scott Horton said, and that was probably one of the most flattering moments of my life. I love Scott to death. Scott, just I can't say enough great shit about Scott. I've had the opportunity to spend time with him on his boat, and my wife loves him. I love him. Like, we're like, he's family as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, when he said that, I was just like, yeah, I'm not as smart as Keith or any of these other guys, but I'm everyone's friend. Everybody. I've always said that about my show, is I'm probably like the best libertarian at conversation, really, because I'm not afraid to like just get in and dig into whatever and just have the conversation and just talk and just be friends and enjoy the conversation and not worry about how much of philosophy or theory or whatever
Yeah.
is getting put out there. I'm more concerned about having a good conversation and giving people something to listen to where they'll laugh and they'll feel something, and they'll enjoy it, and it kind of touches all that emotional points. And but that's just my personality. That's just who I am. So um, I think I'm definitely not everybody's friend. Not everybody likes me, and I don't like everybody. But you're not going to really catch me putting myself in the middle of all that. I would I would promote somebody I don't like that's done good work to spread the message, because it's like it's not about me and my personal feelings. Like that's not what this is about. My personal feelings and what I think about people, or what people think about me, like okay, like whatever. Like you're never gonna please everybody. I'm in my 40s. I learned that a long time ago. You know, I've been divorced twice. I already know you're not gonna please everybody. You know, so, so there's a hard lesson to learn, but I learned. But you know, it's just that's just the way it is. And so we got to kind of get past this, and we got to start really looking. I don't know, maybe I'll have to like think about this a little bit more, but maybe it's something that some of us more creative types um, can come together on and collaborate on, and really start pushing the artistic work of each other. You know, like you being in a band. I know Ace writes short stories. Josh Childress, great friend of mine, writes short stories. Really good writer too. I love reading Ryan Bunting. He writes. He has a book. I don't. Well, it's up here somewhere. Project Manicore. You can find it at his website, ryanbunting.com. And you can go buy it, and it's a good book. I mean, I read it in like 3 days. You know, it's a good fiction novel. Nothing wrong with it. It's really good, and really interesting, and it grabs you from the beginning and it keeps you turning the pages. I mean, what else can you ask for? And it's not like smacking you in the face with libertarian philosophy or theory, but you get the idea of what's going on. And you're like, yeah, we don't want to live in that kind of world. You know, we don't want to deal with that type of shit. And so that's what it's about. And maybe there's something that we can all do as creators, and working together in that more artistic platform. Like John Hartman, great painter. John Hartman is a great painter, just an excellent painter, and I love talking to John. And you know, so there's a lot of talent in the libertarian space. It's just it's so everybody has become so individualistic, and it almost feels like the individualism that's in libertarianism is actually like a weapon inserted to keep us from coming together, and for lack of a better term, coagulating and stopping the bleeding,
Hmm.
right? And that if we continued on the journey of individualism, but did so in a way where we were creating community at the same time, we would actually be able to set an example for others. But as long as we're all at each other's throat all the time, I mean, we're going to. It's just we're not going to be able to stop anything. Oh, and talking creative, cannot forget the great Top Lobster. One of the best creative minds in the Liberty space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was
So,
kind of how you said it was a really good moment for you to have Scott give you that kind of compliment. Um, I want to say it was either shortly before or after I had Tho Bishop on this show, episode 22, I want to say. And he quote tweeted me. I played at a club called, or a venue called the King of Clubs in Columbus, right? And it was a video of me doing my solo and my band, A Common Crown song, Ever After. And he said, the best part about Kyle is that the least interesting thing about him is being a libertarian. And it's a big compliment
yeah.
by somebody who I really look up to in this movement. But he then said after that, that's something that we all should aspire to. And not only was I incredibly grateful for such a nice compliment, but I think there's a lot of truth to that, is that if we want more people to be convinced of our ideology, we need to not be a bunch of Neanderthals and losers who people don't care about at all, right? We have to be relatable people. And if we're interesting people who have a lot going
Right.
on and seem like good role models and good leaders of our community, then people are going to say, okay, well, what else is interesting about them? Why are they so interesting? Why should I look up to them? And hey, look at this philosophy that they believe in. Well, that philosophy is interesting and that contributes to their to their being overall. So why don't we kind of listen to more what they have to say? That's kind of my thinking from the outset, and that's part of my push for this kind of show is to bring this message of just being better, whatever health, whatever liberty looks like to you, embody that and try to bring that in your community and bring that into being so that way you encourage other people to do the same.
Well, and also, like, how much of a human are you being? Like,
Mhm.
really? Like, I don't know of another way of asking it. Like,
Sure.
when's the last time you had a conversation with somebody that you were trying to spread the message to without talking about libertarianism?
Mhm.
When's the last time you just reached out to somebody and said, "Hey, man, I was just thinking about you, wanted to see how your day was. I just wanted to check on you. I know it's been a rough couple of years for everybody. I just figured I'd check on you. You know, how's the wife? How the kids? Yada yada yada." And you don't have to talk libertarianism. You're making that personal connection with that person. It's not about you know what you can get out of it or what you can convince them of. And I mean, really, like if you convince somebody to be a libertarian, like what did you get out of it other than some like boost to your pride? Like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm smart enough to make this person believe. Okay, fine. Be a human. Relate to these people some. Andrew at Popular Liberty, he said it a bunch of times. He's kind of funny. He says the most important book any libertarian needs to read is How to Make Friends and Influence People. And I think he's right. Like libertarians have this like complete blind spot on personal association and relating to people and on just the level of people, and if you're having a bad day and somebody just out of the blue texts you and says, "Hey, I just wanted to check and see how you were doing today," or whatever, it makes you feel better.
Right.
And you remember that because what's that? I think it was a Dale Carnegie tweet or not tweet, saying where he said, "People don't remember what is it? People don't care what you have to say until you or people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." That's what it was.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
That's
and so I'm pretty
okay.
sure that was Dale Carnegie that said that. Yeah, it was people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. That's what it is.
Right. Well, this
And
kind of
and
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. I was just saying that's a very important lesson for people to learn,
Right.
about relating to others.
Well, this kind of circles back to the whole, Jordan Peterson and Donald Trump thing is that they just had to say they cared, right? They built a relationship. You had capital with these people just because you told them you didn't hate them, which isn't a hard thing to do. And it's not hard to reach out to somebody and just
Donald
say,
Trump would
"Hey,
yeah,
man, how you
Donald
doing?"
Trump would stand up. Donald Trump would stand up on stage and say I love you for 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Like he knew like no matter what you think about the guy, he understands how to connect with his audience. He understands that, and that's part of the reason I am the way I am on my show, where I'll talk about my family, I'll talk about like hard times I've dealt with. I'll get really like kind of interpersonal. It took me a long time. It took me probably about 2 years of podcasting before I got comfortable enough with talking about like my own inner workings and the way that my mind works and the way that I feel. And I feel like it's made a big difference in my podcast. Like it's made a big difference with the way that I connect with my audience. Like, because when somebody listens to my show, I know they listen to my show because of the way they approach me when they talk to me. When they like, if we're just interacting on Twitter, I can tell immediately that you're a listener of mine because you interact with me as if you know me. And so I'm like, all right, yeah. Okay. And so I'm going to pay you the same respect. I will anything you bring to my attention at that point in time, I will steel man for you because I'm not going to think the worst of people just because they say something they disagree with. I will sometimes I'll read a tweet. I'll see a tweet come at me and I'll read it 5 or 6 times and I'll be like, what is this person trying to say? And I might not answer them or respond to them for a couple of days because I'm really trying to like take into like consideration, all right, what are they trying to say to me? Now, if you're not a listener, I can usually tell if somebody listens to my show. They know who I am. They know the type of person I am, right? By the way that they approach me. It, and so, yeah, I'll go to blows with somebody like that like treats me like a douche. I'll go to blows with them really quick, and I get kicked off Twitter a lot because I say a lot of stuff I'm not supposed to. That's that blue collar in me. I'm like, well, we always just called each other fucking faggots. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You know, but that's just the way it is. Books, stop. Enough.
Dude, you're good. Yeah, I got a I got a story I might have to tell you off air because I don't want to get thrown off YouTube or any podcast.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to beep that one, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, dude, there's so many things from, and I'm sure you know, just working around older guys who, you know, worked around each other for years and years and years in that kind of environment, but worked so freaking hard and it sucks so bad that you have to have a sense of humor about it or else you'll just fucking die on the job.
Yeah, there was this one guy, big black dude, funny, one of the funniest guys I ever met in my life. The dude was probably like he was built like the dude from the Green Mile,
Mm-hmm.
like just a huge black guy. And we were working at Dow, the chemical plant down the road, and we were painting tanks out there. And he came around, the paint outfits, it's all white and you got the little white hood. He came out and he pulled that white hood up to a point and he goes, "You can't beat him, join him." And we about fell off that damn tank about 20 foot down. We were dying. This dude was just hilarious.
Oh my god, yeah.
You know, but he was just one of those guys that he was just so carefree. He didn't care. He did not care one way or the other. He was just having a good time, and that was just part of it, And that's part of working in that atmosphere. You know, I've never met I every person I've ever met that is quote unquote minority or people of color had been a blue collar guy, and none of them would put up with the pandering that they see today. None of them, like not one of them. They're like, "What the man? I ain't a bitch." Like, like that would be the first thing that came out of their mouth. Like, I ain't no bitch. Don't apologize to me. You know, because you talk to somebody like Quincy or something like that. Yeah, that's my people. Like that's just who we are. We're just we don't care. It's not about like race or anything like that. We're all out there trying to do work, and we have respect for anybody who's out there trying to work and working hard and you know whatever. Yeah. So I don't understand, and I think part of it's growing up in the '90s, being Gen X. We were really kind of like I don't know. We kind of did our own thing, and by the time all of us started paying attention to politics, it was already a disaster, and we were like, "Oh shit! I guess maybe we should have gotten involved in this." But uh, yeah, it was just a different time. It was just so laid back, and it's really difficult to look around right now. Man, why everybody's so high strung? Chill out a little bit, man. Like it's like that Bill Hicks joke. Like marijuana shouldn't only be legal; it should be mandatory. You know. And somebody a joint, be like, "Smoke this, man. You're taking life way too seriously."
Mhm. Yeah. Nah, dude, you know what? I've never smoked in my life, but I do see a lot of people who like, it's like, man, you could probably like take a load off. Um, Dude, you've been very generous with your time. I want to do a few questions, and then we'll close this motherfucker out. Um, 90s Metallica, load, reload. What's your take? Oh, and Saint Anger
Oh
too.
Jesus, they're all horrible.
Oh, really?
They're all just. Oh, I hated all of them. I hated everything after the Black Album, man. It was like, I hated everything. I hated everything Metallica did after the Black Album. I was just not a fan. Saint Anger was the worst, though.
Mm.
The snare. Oh my God! You want to talk about a headache, dude? Oh, the first time I ever heard that, I was like, "What the hell is he doing? Beating on a trash can? Like, what the hell's going on here?" That is the
So,
worst snare sound he had ever heard in my life. I think he was trying to get that helmet, like jazz snare kind of sound going, but it was bad, man. That snare stuck out so horribly. Like you will never get me. I would say load or reload way before Saint Anger because I would never say that was a good album. That was probably the worst album I've ever heard.
so the only don't hate me. Love Load and Reload because I'm a huge blues fan. Gary Moore, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, you name the blues guy, absolutely love them. I'm blanking on a bunch of their names
Right.
right now. And
Stevie Ray Vaughan was the best ever.
right. And I did like the Unnamed Feeling off Saint Anger. That actually was a pretty fucking good tune.
Okay. I don't know the song, man. I know like my buddy bought the album and we turned it on and I think we got like 3 songs into it and we threw it away. It
I
was
can
I was
understand.
like, what the fuck is happening? Like
Newer,
that, I
yeah.
can't, I mean, at least give me the fact that the snare was the worst thing
Oh no,
ever.
absolutely,
I've never
absolutely.
heard a snare that bad.
Yeah, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Um, Newer Testament, the last 3 albums, let's say.
I don't even know if I've heard any of their new stuff, man.
Oh, okay. Oh, well,
I can't remember the last. I can't remember the last time I listened to Testament. Uh, yeah, man. Fuck. I think last time I listened to Testament, I was still in high school.
holy
That
shit.
was. I mean, yeah. That was like '97. Like,
Okay.
jeez. Yeah,
They're
like I'm really bad about keeping up with the older bands because I found new bands that I really adore, and so I found bands like Gajira and Mastodon, and so I don't know, I kind of abandoned a lot of I wouldn't say I abandon it. If I run into it, I'll still listen to old metal, but and every once in a while I'll see like who did I see the other day came out with it wasn't Volbeat. Who was it? One of the older bands came out with a new album, and I listened to it and I shared it on Twitter because I was like, "Oh, cool, man! Yeah, this is badass." But I don't really keep up with a lot of the older bands anymore. I don't listen to a whole lot of music anymore. I guess I wish I did. On like Saturday nights, my wife and I will sit up and we'll listen to music. Um, a lot of times, it's her running the show. So we're listening to like a lot of times we're listening to stuff I don't really care for, like EBM, which I'm not an EBM fan, but she is. But she's also a huge Cataclysm fan. I brought her. The last concert she saw in South Africa before she moved to America was Cataclysm, and the first show I brought her to in America was Cataclysm. So
oh man,
and then I brought her to see Devil Driver. I brought her to see Devil Driver with Hatebreed.
that's fucking awesome.
So yeah, yeah. So there are some bands I still keep up with, but yeah, Testament's not one of the ones that I've kept up with.
I would say listen to The Formation of Damnation if you ever get time. That was album
Okay.
that they put out in 2007. That one was really good. The following album after that, I think, was Dark Roots of the Earth. That one was good. The one after that, Brotherhood of the Snake, it's kind of like the songs on that album that were good were like really good, and the songs that weren't as good were just kind of like okay. And they put out one, I want to say 2 years ago. I can't remember what it's called, but it was okay as well. Um, I've been listening to Revocation, Misery Index, and I got a playlist going on my
Misery
phone right
Index
now.
is fucking amazing.
Oh my god, I remember hearing the Carrion Call back in like it must have been like 2011 um on a cable. I can't remember what the fuck the channel was, but it was one of those channels and they had just heavy metal music. And I remember hearing the Carrion Call. I'm
Mm.
like, oh my god, this is fucking sick.
I've gotten way more as I've gotten older. I my taste hasn't like I haven't gotten into like softer music, but I've gotten more into progressive music.
Okay.
It's like I don't know. It's just something like I really love um, Dillinger Escape Plan.
Yeah.
Um, I mean they're not around anymore, obviously, but Meshuggah. I'm a real big fan of Meshuggah.
Did you like that new
Um,
song they put out?
Meshuggah's new song, yes, I did like it. I was like,
Oh,
yes, this is exactly what I expect from Meshuggah. You know,
nice.
so,
Oh, what did you think of Killer Be
um,
Killed? You mentioned Mastodon and Dillinger Escape Plan. Have you listened to Killer Be Killed?
I love him. I love him.
Okay.
Max is a fucking beast. Like I love Killer Be Killed. I was actually going to bring them up because they are one of my favorite bands to listen to now.
So
Um,
I remember hearing Dust into
I thought their
Darkness.
first, I thought their first album was better than their second album.
I agree.
Um, but you know, Troy, I watched this show on YouTube. Have you ever watched this 2 minutes to late night? Okay. So it's like it's this goofy kind of like Saturday Night Live kind of metal show. And so they'll have like all these metal musicians on there doing all these cover songs. And the more I hear Troy do covers, he just becomes one of my favorite vocalists. I love the guy. I every time when I heard him, they did a cover of I think it was Holy Wars, and he was doing the vocals, and
I
I
know
was
what
just
you're
like,
talking
oh my
about.
god, this is so good. Then they
So
did a
yeah.
they did a what was they did one Metallica song. Oh shit, let me pull this up real quick. Let me because I can't remember which song it was. They
Yeah.
did one song by Metallica, and it was like they did the fast part slow and the slow parts
Oh,
fast.
I can't remember
Oh, it
what
was
I
so fucking good.
was it
I got it
blackened? I
right
can't
here.
remember what it was.
It may have been black. Yes, it was blackened.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it
I
was
know
so
exactly what you're
good. I
talking
was
about.
like,
Yeah.
this is so cool, man. So yeah, no, Troy has become one of my favorite vocalists to listen to, man. He's so talented. He's so good.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I remember I kind of got introduced to Mastodon because of Killer Be Killed, right? I was a huge Max Cavalera fan as a kid. I mean, I was jamming. I used to have
Mm.
Chaos AD, and I always played my mom's Honda Civic when I was driving around. I like fucking grew up doing that. And then when they put out that album Killer Be Killed, I remember hearing Troy. I'm like, man, this dude's got a killer fucking voice. And I remember listening to Crystal Skull. It just that fucking verse. It's touches cold. I was like, oh my god, it sounds like fucking mountains crashing. It was just the most fucking wicked shit ever. Oh, so yeah, ever since then, I
Yes.
absolutely love Troy. And him singing you could find a video of them doing it live, but Crack the Sky, just his fucking wailing. It's just fucking awesome. Like the most.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that dude's got a voice like nobody's fucking business.
And
Like,
what people don't know about Mastodon, what people don't know about Mastodon is there's like three of them singing,
yep.
and their drummer is the one doing all the harmony.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like, and he's just a remarkable fucking drummer, man.
Yeah.
He's so good, you know. Um,
That
and
was
so,
yeah.
yeah, no, Mastodon is a very talented band. Have you ever listened to Call of the Mastodon, their first album?
No, actually.
Okay, so you got to go listen to that, and then listen to like Oblivion or something, and you'll be like, whoa, that's the same fucking band. Because their first album, like Call of the Mastodon, they didn't really sing. They
Yeah.
used the vocals as a percussion instrument, which was, it was interesting. It was really cool. It was really progressive, but none of them had any like confidence in their vocal styles.
They still
And
don't.
so
If you read their interviews, they're like, we're terrible singers. But I'm like, dude, these guys put out some fucking good music. They have for like the last fucking 30 years
yes,
almost.
yes, they're amazing. But yeah, Call of the Mastodon, you wouldn't even recognize it without that kind of like really like hardcore Rush influence in the instrumentals. Like you wouldn't even know it was the same band. Like it's just that you know that Rush influence that really kind of ties it all together. It's like, oh, okay, and see how they progressed, but they didn't really sing. They just kind of like grunted and growled, and it's like, are these even words? Are you saying something? Like, what is happening here? But it was really an interesting album. I really liked it. You know, I remember I saw them at a small club in Houston with a band called Black Tusk. You ever heard of Black Tusk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like them a lot. They have that a really interesting punk style, like they kind of like meshes with this like sludge from the south. So I really like them a lot. But yeah, I saw them. I guess it was 2005. I saw them together, and then the next weekend I was in New Orleans seeing. It's when we hung out with Down. When I hung out with Jimmy Bauer and
Mhm.
all them was that next weekend. Yeah.
So
Well,
my
it's 2010.
wow. My first concert was 2009. I saw Job for a Cowboy, Guar, and Lamb of God. I was
Jeez.
15 years
Job for a
old.
Cowboy.
Yeah. Dude, I remember
Oh, I love those guys.
I will never forget seeing Guar for as long as I live. And I've seen Guar before their singer died and after. And dude, there's something about Dave Brockie and just the fucking original Guar. It was so good. I remember being 15 years old. I had real long hair and fucking Odorous is saying, "Oh, give me that twattest pussy fucko." He stabs a sword in this little fucking baby and it's shooting blood everywhere. I went home, took a shower, and there's just fucking dye everywhere. Yeah, dude, I lived for it. And then Lamb of God came out, and Mark Morton he wasn't touring with them. They actually had Doc Coyle from God Forbid filling in. And dude, it was awesome. First
No,
concert, yeah, back in 2009 at the Pittsburgh Station Square Amphitheater. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
I saw, dude, the Lamb of God show I saw was fucking phenomenal. Who was
Mhm.
it? Silosis, um, Hell Yeah, and Lamb of God.
I saw that tour.
In
Yep.
Yeah, it was in 2013. Silosis kicked ass, man.
Yeah.
I had heard of them, and then like seeing them live, I was like, oh wow, these guys are fucking killer. Like, I loved Silosis. I haven't heard anything from them in a while though.
Their guitar player is in volumes, I want to say. I might have that wrong. Volumes or monuments. I might have that wrong,
Oh, okay.
but I know he plays for another band now, so I believe they're kind of hanging a little loose.
On
I wore
hiatus.
this
Yeah.
shirt because not only are you from Texas, but have you heard Heavy is Texas?
No.
So have you listened to Philip and Selma and the Illegals?
Oh hell yeah. A
Okay.
lot.
So yeah, so
I
that
listen to anything Phil does.
fuck yeah, yeah, yeah. So that first album he put out, right? He had Marzi Montazeri on guitar, right? Well, Marzi wasn't with the band after them, and he went on to play an X Hoarder actually. So that latest X Hoarder album that came out, More in the Southern Skies in 2019,
Hmm.
he was on that album, and he also started Heavy as Texas. Um, they're so freaking good. Kyle from X Hoarder sings in Heavy as Texas as well. It's if you like Pantera, which you know, obviously, you'll like them. They fucking kick ass. It's nice and heavy, it's groovy, shredding. Marzi's a fucking killer guitar player. So I can't remember what track it was on the first Philip and the Illegals. it was a longer track, and the end of it was a long solo that Marzi did. Oh, I don't want to say it was Walk Through Exits Only. I can't remember what the hell it was called, but I remember hearing the first two singles that they put out on that album that they did, I think with Warbringer, Conflict, and I can't remember the other song. But at first I
Yeah.
didn't like it, but then it really grew on me. It took a couple times kind of going through. And Down honestly was the same way. And even Sepultura's Roots was kind of that way for me, that I just kind of had to listen to them a few times. And then I'm like, okay, I fucking love this.
It was what was that other project that Phil did years ago after Pantera?
Super Joint Ritual.
Yes, that's kind of what Phil Anselmo and the Illegals reminded me of. It had that kind of
Okay.
like that super joint kind of feel to it, and
Yeah.
where it was just like just in your face. There's a band I really like out of New Orleans called Soylent Green. Have you ever heard them?
I've heard of them.
They're kind of like that. Like it's one of those, like I like them a lot, and if I ever got a chance to see them, I would go see them. But I have to be in a mood for it. Like it's
Mhm.
like really like it's not something I'm just gonna just turn on.
All
And
right.
that was my thing with Down. Like it was like it didn't matter what I wanted to listen to because you gotta like my favorite bands growing up were like The Doors and Alice in Chains. Like that was I like that kind of bluesy, soulful, dark sound.
Mhm.
And so like when I started like when I ran into Down in the 90s, like what was I was like I guess I was a freshman in high school, so it was like 93, 94 when I ran into Down. When that was when Nola had come out, I
Yep.
think in 92. And
92 or
so
94.
yeah, it was somewhere around there. It was right in that area. It was right around my freshman year of high school. I started listening to Down, but I was already a fan of Alice in Chains. I was a fan of The Doors. So I like that kind of bluesy, dark kind of sound. And so Down brought in that like heavy metal and mixed it with that blues, right?
Mhm.
And it was just like, oh, okay. So so you kind of had like this like really like interesting mix. And then I was a Crowbar fan,
Mhm.
so Kirk being there, and then I had listened to I knew of I Hate God. I had friends that were really big fans of I Hate God. Obviously Corrosion of Conformity, fit right into there. So that kind of meshing of all of these groups, and I actually heard Down before I ever heard Pantera.
Oh,
So
wow.
even being from Texas, I heard Nola before I heard Cowboys from Hell. And so
Oh,
Nola always stuck with me as like one of the best albums. Like, and then I just feel like Phil, like he lost like a lot of his high in as he got older. He lost that high pitch. He just couldn't get there anymore. But if you listen to what he's doing, like on Ghost Along the Mississippi, and he's like, it's like he's singing like in a 7/4 while the music's in a 4/4, and it has like this
yeah.
kind of offbeat thing happening. Like it's just like so interesting. It's almost eerie. Like it's like gets into your bones. And that's what I always loved about him. There was like this kind of like this. It's kind of like Perry Farrell always sang like half a step off, right? With Jane's Addiction, he was always like half a step off, but it worked. It just kind of gave it this kind of like odd feel to it. And that's what I really dug about Down. And so I think that was kind of like what really like pushed me more into the progressive side of things was like hearing like Tool with these off time kind of signatures. Down had this off time. Jane's Addiction had this off time signature. And then my dad always listened to Rush and Kansas,
Mhm.
Yes, and all these bands when I was growing up. So it was like, it was just so easy for me to kind of follow that. And now I'm listening to all kinds of crazy shit. Then I'm like, why am I listening to this? Like Animals as Leaders. It's like, wow, this is like so complex and so hard.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the hell they're doing. Why am I listening to it? It doesn't make any sense.
Yes, well, when I listen to stuff like that, that's usually like almost punishment for myself. I mentioned Revocation earlier, but David Davidson is like the most disgustingly good guitar player, and he sings and plays like these riffs that I couldn't even play regularly. And I've been playing guitar for like 15 years. I look at some of the shit he's playing. I'm like, yeah, I like, no way, absolutely couldn't do it. Animals as Leaders, Tosin Abasi, same deal. Like,
Oh, dude,
fuck you, dude.
incredible. Yeah, just incredible. It's like, wow. My dad used to have this one album. Excuse me. It was a band called Acoustic Alchemy, and those guys it was like, I think it was like 6 acoustic guitars.
Holy
Those
fuck.
guys were just remarkable. It wasn't heavy, obviously. It was like really classical almost, but they were just, it was like a miniature orchestra of acoustic guitars. Dudes were just so phenomenal. And listening to things like that growing up, it is just like kind of stuck with me. And I guess it's kind of pushed me. Whereas I still love that raw, heavy in your face, like Pantera or Zach Wild. There's something about when I want to just sit back and I'm going to sit outside. My chickens are running around. I'm just drinking a couple of beers, enjoying nature, and I turn on like some Mastodon, and I really like let myself like just kind of be absorbed into those time signatures and the things that they're doing instrumentally. It's just so good. Or like the other day, I went on this freaking I went on a Rush kick, and I was listening to Rush for like 10 hours or whatever. So I was like, it's just like there. I won't do that with a lot of bands, but I would do that with like Tool or Mastodon, Rush, even Gajira. I love the things that they do instrumentally. And like I said, those offbeat time signatures, they really, there's something about it that I find so appetizing. I just dig into it. I'm just like, wow, like, did you hear that? I could listen, like, there are certain songs like Push It by Tool. I could listen to that song over and over and over again, listening to them go from a D minor to an A minor, and just the way that it intermingles, and like the music is telling as much of the story as the lyrics are. It's like, I love things like that. So,
Yeah, dude. That's I remember hearing Tools, what the hell was that newest single? And I know a lot of people are kind of iffy about their new album, but I remember reading a comment and saying like you need to listen to this on big speakers, but that kind of is how Tool is that like everybody's doing their own thing and it just amasses together in one amorphous, awesome fucking blob. And I remember thinking about that and listening to it. I'm like, yeah, the drums are like doing something that like doesn't go with the guitar. The bass is doing something completely different, and Maynard's singing like off time, but it works. And I don't know anybody else that could do that, to the same degree.
yeah.
But it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's probably why it takes them 10 years to release an album too. So, because that's a lot. That's a lot of fucking
Yeah,
work. I mean, can you? Yeah, I mean, you play in a band. I mean, like your basic signature timing, from what I gathered with what y'all were playing, was like a basic 4/4. I mean, it's not overly complicated stuff, but I mean, like when you have that many people coming together, all doing different things, trying to fit them together like these little puzzle pieces. It's like, man, that's got to be so difficult, man. Like, and
yeah,
every one of those guys every one of those guys in Tool has an ego, right? Like, you got to know it. I mean, I'm sure they're decent dudes. I mean, I've seen Maynard on Joe Rogan. He seems like a nice enough laid back guy, but it's just like, that when it comes to music, they're all like, yeah, I'm the best ever. So you're going to do what I say.
yeah.
So,
There's
you
like
know,
no mistake in it. It's like these guys are disgustingly good, and like there will probably never be another Tool like there is now because they essentially kind of
yeah.
mainstreamed progressive rock. Like there was Rush, but like Tool and Rush are like two completely different wavelengths. Like Rush is old school progressive music, and then Tool's like this 90s rock progressive. And they both appeal to completely different audiences, but they're both fucking awesome in their own way.
I don't, man. Did you hear the newest Tool album?
Yeah.
Dude, I listened to that album and all I could think of was Rush. Like that
Mhm.
entire album. I sent it to my dad and I was like, man, this it sounds like Rush wrote this. Like it's like because it's all like fantasy and like, like I was just like, oh my god, I could hear Geddy Lee singing this. Like it
Mm.
would like work, So yeah, no, I think no matter how far away you get from Rush, like when it comes to bands like Mastodon or Tool, or these progressive rock bands, you're going to hear that Rush influence. It's just gonna bleed through, because Rush was such a dynamic band. I mean, I was laughing because I heard somebody say the other day that Rush was their favorite. Well, he said, all right, now I want to talk about my favorite three-piece Canadian progressive rock band. And it's like, yeah, there's only one. And so like I texted my dad. I was like, yeah, this guy. I was like, this just made my day hearing this guy said he wanted to talk about his favorite three-piece Canadian progressive rock band. And he goes, yeah, it's got to be Rush. Now can we talk about my favorite three-piece three-piece Welsh progressive rock band? And he's talking about Budgie. And and so it's just these influences that just kind of like float through and kind of come through. I don't think you'll ever get rid of them. Like that's just Rush did such amazing things to music.
Yeah, and there's not many other bands that I think will ever have that same, touch that they did. And prog rock's definitely like a very niche thing, but some people are just born with it and some people aren't. Like I look at the guys in my band and look, me and my drummer are fucking airtight, but like I don't think we could go off and say, all right, well, I'm going to like play in a completely different time signature, and you are going to as well. But somehow we're going to make this work. I I don't think I'm that talented. I will be straight up honest. Ain't in me, man. Ain't in me.
Well, we were talking about Pantera earlier, and we were like, I'll send you this video I was watching. It's these guys, like, it's this one, it's a British guy and an American guy. They go on for like 30 minutes, and I think the first 5 minutes of the video were probably the most interesting because they were drawing the parallels between Dimebag Darrell and Eddie Van Halen, and like when you start seeing it, you're like, oh, they're like the same person. It's just crazy. And they were comparing that Van Halen song, the song "I Am the One."
Mm,
Okay, so they were comparing that guitar riff and that groove, the way that Eddie Van Halen plays that groove, to the way Dimebag plays like all his grooves. And they're like, yeah, he kind of like almost got his style from this one particular song.
yeah, well, he made it very, very abundantly clear many, many times that Kiss and Eddie Van Halen were like the two biggest influences on him. And I'm very interested to see that because I don't want to say I don't hear it, but Dime was so distinctive in his style and like just that like smooth as glass kind of shredding that Eddie Van Halen, I don't want to say had like a rough style, but he had his own style. And obviously Ace Frehley was, less so, I don't want to say less melodic, but he wasn't quite the shredder that either one of them were. But obviously they all have their own strengths that they all play to. And yeah, it's interesting that someone's able to draw those parallels, but I'm stoked to kind of see how they kind of bear that out because I can't say I've ever necessarily squared that circle.
Well, what they were talking about was like, if you hear somebody try to play like Eddie Van Halen, they never quite get it.
Yep.
And if you hear somebody try to play like Dimebag, they never quite get it. And it's like there's something about the way they found like this way to groove within the music that was so unique that even if you can nail every note they nailed, you can't do it the way they did it. Like for whatever reason, like you just can't do it. And so, but yeah, I know like they were making parallels. And like I said, I'll send you the video. I'll find it. I'll send it to you. They were making parallels because both of them originally wanted to be drummers. Both
Yep.
of them had worked to save up money to buy a drum kit, and their brothers learned how to play the drums while they were out working, things like that. And so they
Yeah.
were like, they both were kind of like, well, I guess I'm left with guitar because my brother's the drummer now, like that type of deal. And it was like both of them became two of the most phenomenal guitar players ever, obviously.
Yeah, dude, for real. I guess one of my biggest regrets in life is that I never got to see either one of them. And Eddie Van Halen passed away, almost 2 years ago now. And Don, we're going to be coming up on 20 years here shortly before we even freaking know it. Um, Tommy, dude,
Jesus.
we've covered everything. I don't know if we really left any stones unturned. This is an awesome conversation, man. Tell everybody where they can find you, brother.
I could do this all night. Year zero, man. Libertarianinstitute.org/year-0/. You got to remember that second /. I think Harley cursed me with that /, but it's there. And so I had to remember to say that. So it's libertarianinstitute.org/year-0/. And that's where you find my podcast. And you can find me on Twitter. I don't remember what my Twitter handle is because I've had to change it. It's basically Vladimir Lenin backwards or some shit like that. So if I could remember what that said, that might be helpful. But I don't. I'm really not on Twitter that often. I go on there to kind of just to publish things like my podcasts and stuff and stay in touch with people. But you can always reach me on Twitter. Tommy Salmons at gmail.com is how you can email me. TommySalmons.com is my Substack. So, yeah, I'm not hard to find. I'm not a big social media fan. I don't really like it, and it's just kind of like, it's like cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you're way better off. Dude, this was an awesome conversation. I would love to have you on again sometime. And I think I got a plan to do that. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. And I hope you all got a lot out of it. I know I sure as hell did. And it's nice to kindly, see somebody else in the libertarian movement who's into heavy metal as much as I am. So until next time, everybody, take care.